to probe the death of former President John Evans Mensah.
It's been 10 years. Then this call should have come earlier. We must set the record straight. We know it's a delicate call. We are doing this not out of malice. It's a pure out of patriotism.
Why are they trying to cry more than they berate? You care about Professor Mills than Honorable J.P. Dankwedra, who was murdered at his house. Have you investigated that? Why?
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone and Prime Insurance. Rest assured, you are insured. Well, it has been 10 years since the death of former President Mills, but today there's fresh controversy that has erupted in Parliament over his death. The Majority Chief Whip, Arnold Domprey, has filed a motion asking for a bipartisan committee to probe the circumstances leading to his death. I want to take it to Parliament right now because my colleague Parker Wilson has been digging and working his sources in the office of the Speaker where that motion has now been filed. Parker, this particular motion that has been filed, is it only in the name of Arnold Domprey, who's the Majority Chief Whip? Hello, Parker. Okay, we'll get Parker on the line just to get a bit more clarity on the individuals behind this particular motion, which is already generating a significant measure of controversy. Parker is on the line. Parker, who else is behind this motion?
Evans, there are 4 NPP MPs sponsoring this motion, and it's led by the Majority Chief Whip, Frank Domprey, and also his deputy, Habib Idris of Tolon constituency. We also have the Impresso MP Davis Ansa Opoku and the Tema Central Member of Parliament Ni Noy Hansen Norte. So these are the 4 NPP MPs who are invoking the standing orders to ensure that the demise of the late Prof Mills is being investigated. And Evans, I must say that if you look at the various private members' motions that have come in recent past, they all give reasons why Parliament should constitute a bipartisan committee to probe a matter. You can talk about the one by the NDC, making reference to the violence that characterized the 2020 elections. They believe that about 7 people died, and so it is enough justifiable cause or reason for Parliament to probe that. But if you look at this particular motion, there is no real stated grounds for which Parliament should probe. And just this evening, I have picked information from the Speaker's office that the motion in its current form could be rejected because there hasn't been sufficient grounds for which Parliament should put together a committee to investigate it. So there is a possibility that the Speaker will write back to these 4 NPP MPs and tell them to provide reasons why they want Parliament to constitute a committee to probe this matter. So we are yet to get that response from the Speaker, but this is the information that I've picked from the Speaker's office, Evan.
I wonder how are people react? How are the members of Parliament reacting to this development?
To categorically report what the NDC MPs told me, that they believe this is needless, that where we've gotten to as a nation, we have to move forward and focus on things that will address the plight and concerns of Ghanaians. However, they are not perturbed by this motion. If indeed the Speaker admits the motion and is tabled before the House for debate, the sponsors of the bill would have to make the opposition clear, would have to justify it, and they, in return, would also react. But they believe that there is nothing mysterious about the demise of former President John Evans Mills.
This seems to have taken a lot of people by surprise. I mean, it almost came out of the blue.
It almost came out of the blue. I mean, it was just about around midday there, about when we picked up the information. In fact, when I reached out to some of the NDC MPs, they didn't even know about it. They didn't want to believe me until I showed them the document that was in our possession. That this is the document that we have intercepted, and I listed the number of MPs who are sponsoring this bill. That was when they realized that the issue is actually true, and they were a bit surprised, taken aback that this is not the time for us to be going into this matter. It's been a decade. Why now? They believe the NPP is up to some mischief, but as I mentioned earlier, they are not perturbed at all. They are ready. If the matter is brought before the House, they will deal with it.
Parker, thank you very much, because as Parker just indicated, this particular motion that has been filed did not come with reasons why those behind it want the investigations, except to say that they are asking for a bipartisan probe. But it comes straight from the leadership of the majority side in Parliament. Odondon Prayer, of course, is the majority chief whip, which obviously is raising a few eyebrows among the minority side. He himself has been speaking on our sister station, Asempa FM, detailing the reasons why he believes it's time for the country to spend resources to probe the circumstances surrounding the death of the former president. He says it's because he and his colleagues have had various versions of how he died, and they want the records set straight to guide policy going forward surrounding the health of sitting presidents, and to also for allow the state to learn lessons. He spoke to my colleague Obi on Asempa FM Kusisa in Chi primarily.
It's been 10 years. For 10 years, it's just about years. Boy, Ghana, na President Mills, no new Biakake, regardless of the fact that no any political parties, the head of state, then this call should have come earlier. Papani Fimu, a revoa for mining no muno. Yes, sponsors are motion. 10 years of significant period. I see a boom compound quay cheap. Obi, maintain a direct. There are various versions. There's events and activities surrounding the death of our respected fourth. Mokan somebody be me personally mekuma suwa abovun kruno. It is out of patriotism, no. We must set the record straight. We know it's a delicate call because you're about to recount. Oh, we say when you see, when the call, yeah, na. I said you are whole. But we teach you for. But the GDA said for the records, you know, Ghana as a state, you know, we should come at top. The reality, the here. Megan set records in the street. Inti, my person met section no, me who be harry me na makan more so say. We are doing this not out of malice. It's a pure out of patriotism, sir. I will be about the summer on da. Then they cheer some yinti can be na will be actually basane streno and koyi. That is why yes, sir. Both sides of the house and the more of the parties, the bipartisan. Adiano Yintiminka na Yemfam Baby. Out of the respect we have for the service and the patriotic service all over Yama, you know, we need to do it. It will further
how the committee should look like, on what terms of reference, and what they should go out there and unravel.
Obi, amongst others, and here I'm not going to speak as an authority in this matter. our lay minds catch various versions of report. You know, may see sub previous. I mean, when he was taken ill, was rushed to the hospital. All these events, you know, I see who womb because of the perspective. I say who womb kind. And then even when he was sent to the hospital, we've heard all sorts of stories how the man was treated. We want to establish the truth. For all your more culture, and that is no no. But you per se establishing no be a womb. The competition of this committee, you know, as a convention has been, anytime Parliament forming at such ad hoc committee to, because we're an established committee in Parliament, therefore this ad hoc committee, more or less you can describe it like that, you know. And the leadership, you know, consultation between the two leaders, and it will reflect a proportional representation in Parliament, saying yeah, majority, some minority. In JB Abeka said, just for instance, if Abeka said 3 against 2, and now said 5 against 4. It is all to the discretion of the leadership with the blessings of a speaker. Needs to establish that way. Yeah, yeah, be that. Now, say over Sputnik, there was a form of a bipartisan committee. Investigation by reported by now I'm saying that reporting was adapted in the same vein. It will take that angle, especially in terms of the composition. As pure the terms of reference, you know, where what we are proposing, the committee could vary it. It could add on or subtract. At the end of the day, you know, now established as once head of state, you know, and as a Yankupon tone and sub-fair or corny you know, Parliament and the history will be told that the 8th Parliament, young clients or so, the two are more efficient at the year to year, and we cross all the T's and dotted the I's. For me, it's important. Yeah, in the majority, you say very important. I've spoken to a number of minorities for even though I'm not going to say important, you almost say, oh, we should let the sleeping slide. Even though they concede that as the story is being told, so you're more cast, some are more comfortable, but they believe so. Oh, 10 years there is enough. Only in Germany, yeah, they agree the records. And for the fact that he was once upon a time a head of state, you know, we cannot treat his death as any other person, but we need to give it the attention it deserves. The state must give it all the importance. Once upon a time, being said, it will be a roadmap that should be Mampeni Yare, who quiet the fossil. And as the protocol, existing protocol, no crime, there are defects in the existing protocol now, we'll be able to correct the wrong based on the findings that you bring here for this investigation. It makes people shouldn't read any motive. So it is out of a malicious mind, they're just coming to rub it in their faces. No, it is out of a pure sense of patriotism in the area.
Yeah, but I'm a bit curious. I mean, say, if this investigation, no, we really mean to use this to bring about some changes in protocol, any idea, then it should be something thorough, something that would lead somewhere. See, it's been 10 years. So we share or more involved, even in the processes from Christian Borg Castle to 37. And some of them might have died. Any
public office is a matter of public importance. Regardless, you need the same political party, but and we are all going to be dispassionate and the highest office of the land. Various versions of stories are being told, and we don't bring a finality to it. It's being said, and you're okay.
So that's the majority chief whip there, Mr. Ano Dompre, speaking on Asempa FM. What has he been saying there? He says that fundamentally, he's been laying out the reasons for this motion, and he speaks as this is something that a majority side believe should happen. And so this is a collective decision, he almost pitches this as. It says there are various versions that, of course, they have heard about how the former president died, and that is primarily why they believe this should be investigated to establish the facts. He claims that they are not doing this out of malice, but out of patriotism, and they want this to guide posterity. They want both sides to join in this probe to settle it once and for all. He says they're doing it out of respect, the respect that they have for the service to this country that Atta Mills obviously rendered before he died. He says that things that happened when, things happened during his death, how he was rushed to the hospital, and the events following that, and that they have heard all sorts of stories about how he was treated during the process, and so they want the facts established. He says they expect the committee to have a proportional representation from both sides, and that they will also leave it to the speaker's discretion to compose and put that committee together. He cites the Sputnik V committee that was put together to probe the procurement of vaccines, that probe the health minister. He says that they want a similar sort of committee, and that they also leave the committee to also settle the issues surrounding the terms of reference, and the committee, they believe, has the liberty to vary the terms, and that for them, from the majority side, they believe this is important to examine. He claims that he's spoken to some of his colleagues on the minority, the NDC side, and that although he claims that they believe it's important, the view, though, from the minority side, according to him, is that they believe that they should let sleeping dogs lie because it's been too long. He says the majority side, disagree with that position because they believe this is important. They must be treated as such. And so they want a roadmap, a clear roadmap on how to deal with similar issues in the future. Well, we're also hearing tonight from Samuel Atta Mills. Samuel Atta Mills' brother, of the former President John Evans Atta Mills. He's the sitting member of Parliament for the Commander Negwafwe Brim constituency in the Central Region. He is unhappy with the position taken by the majority on this matter, and he accuses the majority side of crying more than the bereaved.
Why are they trying to cry more than the bereaved? I used to respect him from far away, but Mama or Mama Mensah Sama dream about him. Number from Basadia, why are thou on Fatamo? Every year, be a wapeda wakay heneyao. I will not pray. You care about Professor Mills. Than Honorable J.D. Dankwedra, who was murdered at his house. Have you investigated that? Why? Warrior, one politician, one shot the warrior. And not pray. You sit at the front desk for MPP or Parliament. In Kwafuri Bray or Ghana, not for walk or strike. You take walk or strike. All kinds of problems. I tell you, urgent winner. I bet you not pray. You go school, what saying? There's difference between stupidity, intelligence, wisdom, and knowledge. Oh, you want me to take a crack? Then when I said the 18 year will be every year, what the Professor knows, no one was doing politics. But let me tell you something. Professor Mills is the only sitting president who has passed on so far. Who has passed on so far? And I don't pray. I respected you.
Yeah, Honorable, but it's a colleague now. The spirit behind their call was out of respect for the former president, and also to establish certain protocols. Demra bibi osibio umpa yehukwana yedebefado. It seems the intent behind this whole call, no, On your negative demo, Anna.
Master, Eja Obi.
Honorable.
Any good intention. I've been good intention a war. Politics now was there. And politics now was there. And they know why they are doing that.
Asempa FM.
Oh yeah. By Juma and our parliament to our warrior. Oh, Sunday when you have the Pepe was the Baba. Instead of watching one worker academy. I'm not done. How many times has he spoken about strikes or for I'm not done. How many times has he spoken about Ilebia? What's the bay as horrible on you? Massa, for me and Jed, yeah.
So that's Samuel Tamils there. His brother to former President John Evans Tamils speaks mostly in Tree there. So what was he saying there? Well, again, in the conversation with Obi, his point, you heard him say that this why they're crying more than a bereaved, and why he asks is that every year there is politics surrounding his brother's death, and they want to remind the family of the pain that they've gone through. And it begs that the family should not be brought into this political arena surrounding the death of the former president. He repeats the point about how year on year for 10 years, there's always politics surrounding this. And he was questioned but the intention appears to be noble, to get to the bottom of this, to settle the controversy surrounding the death and to establish the facts. He says, well, the intention cannot be anything good. That the intention is purely politics. He then questions why the majority chief whip is not focusing on other pressing issues that, of course, the country is currently having to endure, including the strikes and the e-levy. I want to bring in a man who was very, very close to the former president, was there when that very tragic incident happened, joins us on the telephone line right now. He's former Director of Communications at the presidency, Koko Indoho, joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Indoho, I'm grateful for your time here on Top Story.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, everyone.
First of all, what do you make of this motion that has been filed by the majority?
Well, I'm not in... Well, good evening to your listeners, and grateful to you for your time and your audience. I'm not in Parliament, and so I cannot comment on what goes on in Parliament.
The general, we just heard from Anodompre who filed it. Anodompre is the majority chief whip. He's explained in an interview with my colleague that they simply want to establish the facts, get the bipartisan committee that will sit down and establish the facts surrounding the death of the man you were very close to. Is this something that you support?
Well, Evans, I was with you maybe less than 10 days ago. We had a very interesting conversation. Personally, I have petitioned the Ghana Police Service because I have been accused of having a hand in the death of President Mills. That petition stands with the Ghana Police Service, an accomplished institution of state that has the capacity to investigate. I am not in Parliament, and so whatever is going on in Parliament, that is within the remit and the ambit of Parliament. So I cannot speak to what Parliament is doing. But as an individual belonging to a family, and let me just state categorically, my petition to the police has more to do with the Anidoho name. So if people come out and say, I have no locus, and Atamils has family. Yes, Atamils has family. Very good man to me. He loved me. I loved him. I worked for him. But at this point in time, Evans, it is not the Atamils family that is being accused of having a hand in the death of one of the years. It is Samuel Kokusi Chopanido who has been accused of having a hand in the death of Atamils. I have every right, every locus to protect the Anido name. And did I hear the brother of the president say on your sister station that his brother died in his hands?
I didn't hear that.
Well, I think I've heard it in other circles that his brother died in his hands. More reason why we must have the inquest. More reason why we must have the inquest.
So Parliament, personally, you believe Parliament should
as for Parliament and what they want to do, Parliament, 275 constituencies, mandate of the people of Ghana. Me, what mandate do I have? I have my own personal mandate. A personal mandate.
I guess it goes to the question of when you say more reason why we must have the inquest. I mean, what inquest? Police inquest, bipartisan inquest?
Well,
which one are you
I have
bang your hopes on?
petitioned the Ghana Police CID because I've been accused of having a hand in the death of the former president. So I put it before the police, a creditable institution of state. They will decide the form, shape, and size that the investigation will wear. As to what happens subsequently, it's up to the state to determine. But I will not fight the individuals who are accusing me of such a heinous crime. I put it before the state. Let the state decide how it wants to act in my interest, because I have locus as a responsible citizen of the country to petition the state. And so let the state work on my behalf, and I believe that the state has the capacity to work on my behalf. So that's it. So he has said somewhere that I don't have locus as a member of the Atamils family. I agree. I have never said anywhere that I am a member of the Atamils family. But to the extent that a certain Koku Anyido is being accused of having a hand in the death of President Mills, I have every right to defend the Anyido family name.
So I get your point. So your preference is you simply want the police to do this job. Parliament can decide to do what it wants on the night when we know, and has been confirmed